So today it's Monday, and we're going to do a CEPT set. As I've said a million times on here, that we don't get on very well with CEPT channels in this area here in Lincolnshire, and sometimes I can get as little as 1 mile because of foreign interference. Some people might like foreign interference and try and talk to it, but I don't wish to do that. I want to communicate with people relatively locally, and CEPT doesn't work. So we have no customers who want to use CEPT, and they all want to use the UK channel. So here we have the Uniden PRO450E, which will be a 1987 offering when CEPT channels became available. Mark's put a sticker on it with its stock number. It's PR27GB. Serial number is 518, made in Taiwan. And for some bizarre reason, it has a power lead coming out of the back of the radio through a hole somebody's made, because somebody couldn't be bothered to spend $2.99 on a power lead, no doubt. The good news is it has the factory original mic, and it even has a mounting bracket. So we'll just get rid of that. There we are, I've got rid of it. I've never seen one of these before in my life. I've got no service information on it, but Uniden radios tend to be quite reasonable. And I'll tell you what, when we've chopped that lead off, we'll be able to use that on a set with no lead. So it's not going to go to waste. I'm going to get a screwdriver on the floor. I'll put the soldering iron on in case the speaker doesn't have tags. That's the word I'm looking for. So, I've got one or two Uniden offerings. I think we've only ever covered one of the CEPT ones. I say we only do these for the video. They're absolutely useless to us. Okay, so yeah, it does have. Important to note that's a 16 ohm speaker, so if that failed and was replaced with an 8, it would end up destroying the amplifier. You've always got to go higher ohms on your replacements. Now, this isn't obvious which the polarity is it? Because it's a non-polarized wire, and as I say, it doesn't matter which way around it goes, but I've been showing you how to check the polarity for those people who do worry about that. So I may as well run it on this power lead at the moment, and then we'll apply a new one to it. It's an expensive bulging fuse holder, probably worth as much as the radio, which I think I paid £5.19 for on eBay some years ago, before I didn't realise that CEPT was useless. So, nicely laid out. Shouldn't be too difficult to find out what does what. So I'll connect it to the power supply. Oh, that's not a very good start, is it? We have a power problem. So let's see what happens when we go into transmit. We'll select picture in picture. And it doesn't recognise that. So the next thing to do is, does it work in PA mode? May have an internal power supply issue with looking at that. So let's see. Select PA. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 10 testing 1 2 1 2. No. Just SRF and mod, interesting. So pop the speaker now into the extension speaker socket. And there's a quiet background noise, but not a normal background noise. Just to see whether the radio is receiving, I'll put the signal generator on 27205, which is channel 20 CEPT, and at a level of S9. The radio's starting to come up now, which is indicative of capacitor problems. Still not going into transmit. Let's go back to PA. Testing 1 2. Okay. So we need to do some fault finding, and I would suspect I'm going to check we've got some kind of power to the PLL chip, but I would also suspect that we've got some tied capacitors in this area. Now I'll just feel those for a temperature change. I know on the Uniden 200 and 100 and so on, all the 220 microfarad capacitors are well beyond their sell-by date now. So I think the first thing we'll do is to see whether there's any 220 microfarad capacitors and just change them anyway, because they're going to be the same type. Well, I can see one immediately, and that's there, right, and which will be probably the 5-volt line going to the phase lock loop chip, which could cause that kind of malfunction. So I think the very first thing to do to this is just to change that, and we'll just put it on then on the ESR meter and just see how poorly that capacitor is. But the fact that the amplifier is coming up slowly from a set we probably bought 5 years ago, it certainly tells me we've got capacitor snags, and they're very cheap to fix. At the end of the day, there's probably only about 7 it could be, so it could change them all. So I'll pause the video and we'll get that one looked at. Okay, so we've changed that capacitor. So it's now got a black one in that position. And let's just have a look at the one I've taken out. Yeah, it says it's in circuit, so it's faulty. Right, so switch back on. So we now have receive. I've got a sneaking suspicion the mic's not working. The fact it's not keying up the PA and now we have amplification tells me we've got a mic problem. So let's have a look at that inside here. Now, as I said a million times before, we don't normally look at mics. They would be discarded. But this is a factory original microphone. It happens to be my set, so I don't need to just swap it willy-nilly when it's a factory original one. I think there must be a planet somewhere there where all the mics go, and the brackets, and battery doors off things. Well, it looks alright at that end. So is it wired right? Let's have a look at our handy chart. So it should be pin out number 2. So it should be screen, audio, PTT and receive, and it is just that. So put it back together. We'll start with the teeny weeny screw, as Knights at Curtin and Lindsay refer to them on their sales list, and a teeny weeny they certainly are. Right, we better look at the other end of the mic. So we should have got black, that goes somewhere to screen, which it does, red to transmit, yellow's audio from the mic. So I'll plug that into the radio. Can't see any of those being off. I'll just short that out with a screwdriver at the same time. There. So it looks to me like we have a working microphone. So I know it would be a bit of a long shot that somebody's gone and rewired a factory original microphone and then put it back on a similarly branded set, but you never know. They could have bought this radio as a car boot sale and they already had a Uniden mic, or they bought a Uniden mic in a batch off eBay and they put a mic to it and it's been rewired for something else. So the possibility can happen. It can be that it didn't always belong with this particular radio. So these things are why I just check before we start delving into the more complex electronic side of things. So yeah, I'm satisfied that's okay. Put the chart away. So once again, we're in PA. And nothing's happening. Okay. I'm going to start looking for dry joints. This could also be why we've got a channel thing, because the board is soldered the front to the back, and I think we all know that these things can get dropped and these can come adrift. So I'll pause the video and we'll have a look at that. Okay, so going back into record for a moment, I found the reason there's no transmit is the radio has been dropped, probably with the mic in, and there's a printed circuit board crack. I don't even know we can zoom in, and I can't see the monitor very well with it being LCD. So there's 3 tracks which are cracked just there. So somehow what I've done is to unsolder that ribbon cable so that I can get in. I mean, ideally I'd unsolder the other side of the printed circuit and split the 2 halves, but the chances are that you end up with the print coming off the board. At the end of the day, they are cheap. You know, it's not something you're rebuilding which is military standard. So, you know, something like this would write off the radio. But we'll give it a go and see whether we can come up trumps with that. Okay, so some painstaking work. I've put the ribbon cable back, and with there's 3 wires now, hopefully covering those cracks. It's all the PA button that's been affected. You think, well, I'm not bothered about PA anyway, but actually on this set it seems like, well, like other set, it runs through the PA button even if you're not using PA. Let's find the right remote button and we'll be back to normal size. So we'll plug the mic in. There's probably a crack the other side, which is why half the channel display's out. Yeah, I think we've got it. So we'll plug into the instruments. I just flicked it in to transmit for a second and it went to TX. So we'll just plug the PA in. Testing 1 2 1 2. So that's PA working. Extension speaker. Oh, PA. And there we have some power. There's the 3 watt scale, full scale deflection, about 3 watts. Yeah, 3 watts. Okay. So the fact the display is still dodgy, the radio's now working. The display is still dodgy, that should say 20. So I bet the same's happened at the other side and the board's cracked. This is something I may be able to revisit. The difficulty is if I take all this apart and take the display out, I'll have to order a display, and then if I can get the display, it all delays the job in hand. You know, it's going to be several weeks, so I think we need to see how the radio performs and all that, and worry about the display later. So it's not like it's a customer's set, so it can wait. Having said that, those look quite dry joint just there, so I'll switch it off and deal with that. Okay, so we're not improved on that. There's no end of different reasons that could be, including a faulty channel selector switch, because that channel selectors, which also does the display. I've been known to drill into those before now because they're a sealed thing. If you drill some thin holes, you can get switch cleaner in there and then seal it back up again. You've got to do that procedure with a vacuum cleaner because you don't want any debris going inside. And it's either, it's one of these, well, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it needs replacing anyway. So we've got a dodgy display, but the radio is going in to transmit. So let's have a look at what we can do on the transmit side of this radio. So how many presets have we got? We've got the one down there, which is clearly going to be deviation. We've got 3 up there. So we're going to have transmit meter, receive meter, and I would think we're going to have squelch. So that's probably about all we're going to have to adjust. I'd like to get the power up. I'm expecting the transmit line to be there. Could be that one, and then the 2 wax ones there. So let's see what happens. So we're on the 30 watt range. Just move the bench light a bit. It's actually doing 2.6. This might be receive, and you might be all shouting at me, that's receive. Well, it certainly isn't transmit. I actually see very few Uniden sets there. Well, I see even less CEPT ones, of course. I'll tell you what, we'll go back to the 3 watt range because that's not easy to see. So that's definitely Pete. So it's just 3. Okay, so it's doing 3 watts. 3.1. Not unusual for CPT sets to be in, I found low, especially on this test set. Yeah, I said before, it's selective, so it knows where we are in the frequency band, and so it's looking at what we're transmitting, as in 27.205. It's not looking at the interference the radio also gives out. And so whereas on a cheap power meter, you're going to, it's not going to be at all selective, and you're just going to read everything within the capability of that meter. It might be 1.8 to 30 megs, and that meter might read all the interference the radio generates in that bit, which you may say this radio is 4 watts, but it's 3.1 when it's on this meter. So anyway, I've done videos on power meter comparisons before, so we don't need to do that. But I continue to get queries on that. Let's see about deviation. We'll reset our meter because it's not normally on this band. And we've got 1. Well, yeah, we've got 1.8. That's never been touched. That's going to be deviation. Now it's far too loud. Let's try it there. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's one of those. It's have I got mic gain at full? Nearly. 1, 2. I'm gonna leave it there because we're getting full 2.5 on a whistle, and I don't want to turn it down because looking at that average 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, it's not how I would like a set to be. I think when we did yesterday's Smoky Bear PT40, the mic gain wasn't brilliant, and it sounded a bit quiet, but I didn't want to turn it up on the deviation because the peaks could go beyond what's legal. So, transmit power, doesn't matter what it's doing, it needs to say that it's doing 4. So I know it sounds a bit of a swizz, but this is how they're set. So we'll go for the bottom one. These are I'm just doing these random. I don't know which one it is. Well, isn't that one, is it? Let's try the next one. It's that one. Haha, look, it doesn't have as many bars as you think. It's nothing changed, has it? It's got they're in 3s, so each dot is 3. So we'll have it actually where it was. So that's that set. So we know that's the middle one for the RF meter. So we're going to have S meter and squelch, I would think, left to do. So let's have a listen to how good it is, and we'll put it into the signal. We'll put the signal generator on and into the cyanide meter. Now these have a conventional detector, so I'll just check we're still on frequency, we haven't drifted. Slightly out. Oh, we haven't done the frequency on this. Let's have a look at that. Go back to transmit. Oops, wrong camera. So used to the Uniden 100 and 200 UK sets that don't have a frequency adjustment. So on this we do. So that's an improvement. Should be 27205. It is 27205. That's spot on. But we'll just pop it down that fraction. I'll probably never get it back as close. Overshot it. Yeah, well, it's about as close as we're going to get it. I'd rather have it slightly higher than slightly low because they drift down with age. So that was a waste of time, but at least it is adjustable. So let's look for the other oscilloscope. And that's that one. So we're going to look at, I'm going to put S9 signal on the signal generator, which is 100 microvolts in the UK for a CB. And turn the volume up so we can actually see a waveform. And then it's find the detector. Well, I think the detector is going to be that one. And I've made no improvement to that whatsoever, so it was already spot on. Okay, so it's over to the cyanide meter now. So we want that to a signal such that we're getting about 4 decibels. I don't think we'll be able to improve on this. It's clearly not being messed with. Just put a bit more signal on for the IF because I'm looking at qualities. I'm looking at the oscilloscope and the cyanide meter. there we are. No improvement. And to be honest, it's very good. So we'll get the notepad out. So 20 dB, which not all radios can achieve because of the quality of the transistors. 12 dB is industry standard, and 10 dB is the cheating standard for people with def sets and want them to look a bit better. So the first one we want is 20. What we're getting? Well, it's 0.95. That's excellent. .12 decibel, it's 0.3. I could say 0.299, because I'm not going to. It's 0.3, and for 10 dB, .24 microvolts, so that's very sensitive, and there's something which the Unidens for the UK band weren't really. So we need to set the S meter for S9. So with 100 microvolts, I may as well move this down to the attenuator controls, because we're going to get ready for the squelch in a moment. There we go. So 100 microvolts is on the machine. I need to set that for S9. So we're showing S7 at the moment. So it's going to be either going to be that one or that one. So let's go for that one. It's not that one. Let's go for that one. It is that one. There we go, and hopefully we can turn up the signal generator and get plus 30. We can. Good. So that's that set. So it just needs the squelch. So I'll tell you what, we'll keep it at 100. We'll keep it at 100 microvolts. Turn the squelch to full, and then set that so it just comes in. So turn that down to 30 microvolts, turn it up to 100. So let's see what sensitivity we've got now at the bottom end. Switch the signal generator off. The radio to threshold, switch the signal generator back on. And the squelch just comes straight in on the 0.3 microvolts I parked the signal generator at. So let's see when we lose it. So it's coming in, it's just above 1, just above 0.3. It's coming in at 0.32 of a microvolt, and it's disappearing off at 0.22, 0.34 to come in, 0.34 again, and off at 0.22. It's a very sensible squelch range, unlike yesterday's Smoky Bear set, which had a definite squelch. Anyway, it did work over the thing at least. So we've got a radio here that's 3.1 watts. That's no surprise, and that would read more than 4 watts on a cheap meter. So don't worry about it. It's just, you know, we're using commercial meter. We like to get the true. We've covered it, haven't we? We've done it all. So I've got a problem with the display. Now that bar's just coming in and out, and it's possible that we've got dirt in the BCD switch. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to drill into that switch. How I can say, don't do this at home. This is the last ditch attempt, because I'm sure that's what's wrong with it. So I'll pause the video. Okay, so I've got to the trouble of taking the front off this, which is no mean feat. He said it's just a waste of time. It's an LL2953-81 display module. So it's a bar graph display and a dual 7-segment display in one module. So it's not like there's a display and there's a bar graph and you can do something like change it. And looking this up, absolute blank. I can't see these anywhere. So the set is a write-off as far as the set goes. So it's either got a fault in the channel selector switch, which is still a possibility, or it's got a problem with the 7-segment display. Now some of these displays have got built-in driver chips. I don't know whether this is one or not. I can't tell, as I say, because I can't find the number anywhere. So we'll put this back together. We'll do the on-the-air test, because it won't affect the range of the set. It just won't give us a channel number, but that doesn't matter. And but it's not worth pursuing, because the set's worth less than the Fidelity 1000 with it being CEPT. So we'll put this back together if we can. They are fun, aren't they, these kind of things? Try and poke the yeah, well, I'll pause the video once again and I'll attempt to put this back together. So in view of the problems with this radio, I'm not going to change the power lead from what's been provided by the previous owner or whatever, because it's a waste of time. It's a dead duck, and I say what we can do, we do the demonstration, and that will be just as valid as if the display was working. I know that's channel 20, but we do have snags, don't we? What we'll do, I'll just turn it off. Another one might turn up for a £5, but I'm not going out of my way looking for one because they're of no interest to us. Let's just see which is negative. I say it doesn't ever matter, but that's novel. None of them. Okay, so it must be coupled a different way. I'm not looking into that either. Well, nothing works out on this set today. So it's clearly been dropped, and but that board crack, with having that front off, there's no other crack. So we've either got a problem with the channel selector switch, which I now doubt because of drilling into it and getting some cleaner into it, or it's that display which has an internal driver chip, and which is a possibility, and that can be it. It's always a snag when you've got custom displays. Right, so as you can see, it's on channel 20, and that's channel 19. See, that's 40. $29. 19. 19 Roger. Wonderful. And today's waste of time was a Uniden PRO450E. I can't even remember what it was. We'll do an on-the-air test later on, and thank you for watching.